Hey everybody, how you doing? I'm Rusty Nelson down here in the Villages, Florida, and it is a little while before Milton's about ready to hit. It's Tuesday. The hurricane is about 275 miles away, but a common sight here and all around the Villages is this, and that is pumps that are wrapped up. But I'm going to show you a trick if you're really desperate for gasoline where you can go get it. And they pretty much always have it by law, actually. And we're going to talk a little bit about Milton, some things you may want to think about before the storm actually gets here. Anyway, let's go ahead and get started on this. Hey everybody, how you doing? I'm Rusty Nelson down here in the Villages, Florida. This is an hour or so after like lunchtime or so. I'm going to get right to Milton, Hurricane Milton, and talk about this specifically, how it deals with the villages and the inland, because I know the news and everything talks about everything that's happening on all the coasts and stuff, but they forgot about us up here in the villages, and I know a lot of you want to know exactly what's going to happen in the area here. Well, I can't tell you. All I can do is kind of do some light interpretation of what is out there technically, and I pulled together some graphics to kind of show you graphically so you understand. The big thing to remember is that this is weather. It's weather, so it's predictable but unpredictable. And you just never know where this is going to go, and I'll try to expand on that as I go through it. But I thought it'd be a really good idea if I just kind of put it in graphics and show you in graphics where things are going to happen. And then at the end, I'll show you where I found some gasoline. Yeah, that you can get pretty much, I believe, 24 hours a day. And that's kind of cool. But anyway, let's just go. And well, let me say, first of all, a couple of things I did. And you know, you may want to have just a little, if you don't have a little bag with your medications and that kind of stuff packed up and ready to go. I am not saying there's any big emergency at the moment to go do it. All I'm doing is just saying it's nice to have a little bag, because if the lights go out for some reason, you don't want to be hunting with a flashlight. Also, you know, we may get through this perfectly fine and nothing happens here in the villages, you know, fingers crossed. But power may go out and we may be out on power. Water service may be interrupted for a little while. So what I did was I just filled a couple of buckets up with water. Some people I know filled their bathtubs up, or their service sink in with the washers and dryer, filled it up and plugged it up. And why? That's specifically for me, that's just to flush my toilet, because I don't, you know, they say when it's yellow, let it mellow. When it's brown, flush it down. I want to be able to get rid of it, to put it bluntly. That's one thing. Also, please get rid of all those things that are stuck in the ground out there. They are going to become projectiles for sure if we get some high winds through here. And I'm going to show you, like I said, graphically kind of what to expect. Let me see, I got something else. Well, also what I did, and you may want to do it now, is I finished all my loads of wash, so that's all done in case you need that for a few days. Did my sheets and stuff, so I got clean sheets. And I froze some of the larger liter bottles of water. Make sure if you're freezing them, you leave some room up top while you're freezing them. Why? Because that'll help keep your freezer cold for a while. So I have about 4 bottles of those. So that equals old ice chest days, that kind of thing. And recharged all my batteries. I have a kind of strategically placed flashlights, and I'm also packing up all my stuff, in case you don't know it, to go out live. I'm going over to visit some friends around 2:30, 3:30, something like that. And I'll have my car all set up to broadcast live. So this is going to be a long night for me. I'll probably be up most of the night, and you'll see why as I go through these graphics. Anyway. I think that's about it. I don't want anybody to get hyper crazy, but I don't want you to let your guard down. Also, let me say something. If you have a neighbor or something like that, I was going to say we're all seniors, but elderly, senior, that kind of thing that's living alone. I know a couple of my friends have invited those people over to stay with them for the night. Because it can get loud out there and it can get kind of shaky, or, have them over for dinner or something like that. Especially if they're alone and they don't have a spouse with them. Anyway, enough said on that. I think you get the point. We live in the villages and we kind of pride ourselves on that kind of stuff. Anyway, let's get started on going through these graphics really quick. Now, I know you'll find this kind of easy to understand, and it deals directly with us here at the Villages. And there's a few things we need to worry about. Wind, we're going to worry about wind. We're going to worry about water, and we're going to go through graphics on those, and then power outage, that type of thing where they expect that to be. Anyway, let's do this. It's going to be fast and furious, but you can always stop it. And if you want, you can go ahead on the timeline to any spot. I'll put the chapters in there. Here we go. I'm going to try to get through this really quick as best as I can. I'm going to give you a lot of information. It's going to go real fast. I'm not trying to alarm anybody. I'm just trying to regurgitate the stuff that I know. Also, make sure that you subscribe and ring the bell twice thing, so that if I do go out live here, maybe tonight or tomorrow morning, you get notified on that. And you probably won't unless you hit the thing twice. If you already subscribed, you got to hit it twice and hit the bell to get all. Let's get started here. This is the infamous cone that everybody keeps talking about. And the problem is I still get people coming up to me and saying, I'm not going to be affected because I'm not inside the cone. First of all, let me explain something. NOAA will tell you that these cones, even now when we're in this close, you have a 40-mile error. You know, when they talk about doing political polls, they got a 2-point error or whatever. Well, there's a 40-mile error where this thing could be wrong. They'll come right out and just tell you that. But the whole concept is that this cone is where the center can be. And so far as I go through this, you'll see that this has really moved all over the place. And with this storm, that little bit of a movement in the cone can make a big difference, and you'll see why as we go through this. So this is the cone, and you know, I've seen in the last 2 hours, I've seen anywhere from saying that this is going to be a Category 4 going right through the whole state to tapering off. My personal opinion is once this hits the coast, once we get into the coast, depending on how the eye of the hurricane is pulsing, it's kind of like a living animal. It pulses down and then it goes up and it rebuilds itself and it goes down. If we hit it at the right time as it approaches the coast, there's a lot of effects there that come into play that will play against the building of the hurricane. So hopefully we'll hit that just at the right point. We'll cover some of those as we go through this. Anyway, here we go. So on this one right here, on this particular one, we're looking at basically a Cat 3, but by the time it gets to the East Coast, we're looking at a Cat 2. Now here's a different model, and we are located right up here where it says Florida. And if we go down to this area right here, it says Cat 4, a Cat 4, and you can see how wide this cone is. That means that anywhere within the center of that cone, the center or the width of that cone, they're predicting. Now remember, we got a 40-mile error, so you're talking 20 miles on one side, 20 miles on the other, and we could be all the way down by Cape Coral by then, or kind of far off. So it definitely makes a big deal. Now, also at this point right here, there is a pretty big bend that they're predicting in this. And that's because of the winds aloft and the jet stream and some other factors. They're supposing that this is going to push this a little bit to the south as it kind of rounds the bend. Also realizing that the more that this weakens, probably the more that's going to have an effect either way. All right, and so it has it at a Cat 1 by the time it gets to right here. Now let's take a look at this model. I'm going to take me off of here totally. And this is, you can see the eye going along the bottom. And as it hits right about here, it almost starts to disintegrate itself. And a lot happens right there. This area on the top, if you look, there's a lot of red on there. And if you look on the bottom, there's hardly anything. There's bands. So up north, there's a big blob. I'm not going to get into technically why this is, but this is just the way it's happening right now. And it has to do with, if you think of dry air and the wind currents are kind of turning this hurricane into two different things. Unfortunately, we are on the top side up here. In fact, I'll show you right in this area right here is where we're at. And if you look, that's a big blob of red. And what that's telling us right now, we're going to look into rain, wind, power outages, that kind of thing in a second. But I just want you to understand what's going on so that you can understand this. And at the very end, we're going to talk about where we're susceptible to tornadoes. So anyway, big rains up north, right in where we're here. Now on the bottom side, you'll see these trains of storms come in like this. And this is because of upper level winds and that type of stuff and dry air being brought in. But if you watched the other videos that I did, I talked about the dirty side of a tornado. So as this thing moves through, the front right quadrant is usually what we call the dirty side. And in that dirty side is where we find the tornadoes. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. Moving right along with this, and as it moves out, you can see this starts to get even worse. That's the eye right over Tampa. If you remember correctly, not too long ago, that the models were predicting before the 11 o'clock that it was going to be a little bit south of that. And you can see the eyes just staying right there. But yet we are in an area where there's a lot of wind and rain. And that's about it for that. Now I'm going to kind of show you what to expect during the time frame of this. And the reason I want to do this is so that this is going to be at night. A lot of this is happening. It's going to make a lot of noise. And there's going to be a lot going on. And I feel that if you know that it's coming and basically what time it's coming, kind of makes it a little easier. You're going to go, okay, well, I know that that's going to happen. Now, here's the thing. This is a graphic right here, and I'll try to enlarge this. It may push me out of the picture. But as you can see, this is about 6 o'clock at night. And we're talking, kind of northeast winds at 28 miles with gusts up to 40. But as we go along and we go up to 4 a.m., so 4 in the morning, we're talking more like 61 mile an hour sustained winds from a completely different direction, right? South-southeast, and gusting to 81 miles an hour. Now, just a few hours ago, this was all starting at like 1 o'clock, the kind of prime time for this. So to give you an idea how it's shifting around, this is kind of slowing up a little bit, then it speeds up, and then it slows up and speeds up, and it all has to do with that pulsing and the effects of the other winds above it. So let's take a look at this graphic right here. There, oh, sorry, I had the wrong one. This is max sustained winds. So this is kind of like the max wind you'll get constantly. We are right up in this area, right where it kind of says Florida. So you can see we're right in an area, and this has been fairly consistent, even though the center of the storm has been bouncing around. This has been fairly consistent. So in other words, 56 to 74 miles an hour. And if you remember what time it's saying that's going to happen, somewhere kind of like closer to the 4 o'clock now, we're going to start seeing that upper end, and then it'll start to taper off. But then these are the max gusts. So this is where you're going to hear that like driving rain when that big cell or whatever kind of forces its way through. You're going to hear a lot of noise. You're probably going to hear a lot of thunder, that kind of thing. And that kind of puts us up right in here. And this is more like up into the 80 mile an hour range, max gusts 85, 86, somewhere around there. So now you kind of know that kind of early in the morning, you're going to start hearing this from anywhere after midnight to maybe 4 in the morning, just depending on how much it kind of shifts around. So let's take a look at rain. And this is a graph that kind of shows you what we can expect as far as rain, and I'll show you in a kind of different thing right here. But 8 to 12 inches, it got a 27% chance, and 4 to 8 inches, which is pretty good amount of rain in a short period of time, about 39%. And if you look down here, this will kind of show you when to expect it. So 5, we're talking about a quarter of an inch, half an inch every hour, and then we move up to a half an inch every hour, and that type of thing. And when we get up in the morning, somewhere around 7 or so, 6, it's still going to be raining pretty good. And like I said, it depends on that big blob of orange that was up north of us on top of the hurricane itself, where that's sitting and how much that dissipates. And here is kind of a graph that will show you, once again, Ocala and the Villages is right pretty much dead center in the middle of this. Like I said, we are going to be pretty rainy, pretty gusty, that type of thing. Of course, everything's going off right in the middle of this. Now, because of that, let me say one thing. Luckily here in the Villages, they've done a lot of prep. They've been building these properties for a long time. So there's a lot of prep as far as the water goes. There's a lot of prep as far as the electricity goes. The homes, there was a note sent out by Sumter County. Thanks a lot, Bob. Sent that to me. But that basically said, for people in, I believe this is what it was, for people in the Villages, a lot of these homes, especially the newer ones, are built to withstand a lot of this. And they say it's best if you just hunker down. Now, obviously, that'll change if you live up in one of the manufactured homes or a trailer type home or one of the very old homes. But anyway, that's it. I know a lot of people have gotten that. If you've gotten that, put it down in the villages, in the comments and type thing. In fact, anything you want to put down there except for stupid things, because I'll just erase those. Go ahead and do that. Anyway, here is... we're talking basically the rain. So we are in the middle of it. Just expect it. Now, power outages. Let me just put the screen up here. Here are the forecasted power outages. You can tell we are right in the middle of this. And so you can expect it. Nobody knows what's going to happen. But remember, in our areas and how we're fed, most of the power lines are buried. So a lot of the larger part of the power grid, that's what's above ground. That's what we see these big lines going over, and it depends on how well they handle it. But for the most part, we're pretty good as far as the power outages go. Don't forget, you can go on the internet. And there's a bunch of different power companies that deal with the Villages. You can go on their websites and they will tell you when to expect something back on. They'll give you maps and that type of stuff. Let's just take a look at this. This is just another shot, and it really shows that big blob that's up north. This is only about 235, so this is kind of like right now. You can see these bands coming in, but they really turn into a big blob up there. And I will show you once again on this. If you watched the other video, we have areas that we call the dirty side. If this storm is moving in this direction, we can kind of divide this into quadrants. This quadrant over in here is called the dirty side. I'm not going to get too detailed into this, but that is the area that you will see a lot of tornadoes and stuff. Well, why is that? We've got air. I'll take some of this off of here. We've got air coming in this way. We've got some dry air coming in like this. But we also have, at a different altitude, air coming in this way. And what that does in this area right down in here, I know that's a big mess, is this creates shear. So you have, as you go up in altitude, the air at different levels kind of moves like this. This is what causes tornadoes. So in that area, there's a lot of forecasted tornadoes. As you move north into this area up here, where we are, and we're right into the middle of it, you generally have less tornadoes. It's just the way it is. This storm is really unpredictable, and in that big yellow and red blob up there are buried cells in there, and that's why you want to keep your phone on. If you have a weather radio, You want to listen to that and keep tuned for it and kind of have that special place in your house or wherever you're going to go if those kind of warnings go off. I covered a lot in that, but I think I gave you a lot to work with. Once again, I'm going to go set up my car now. I'm going to try to go out live. Hopefully in the morning, I will still be out there and I will be live and have any damage. Don't forget to do that subscribe and hit the bell thing, the second time so you get notified of all. Anyway, that's it. Be safe, guys, out there. If there's any significant change or anything changes, I'll get back on here and tell you. And thanks a lot for all the comments and stuff people have letting me know whether this is helpful for them, whether it makes them more nervous or calms them down a little bit. But at least now I think you kind of know what to expect. And I will be out there kind of running around today and tonight and tomorrow morning. And that's about it. Anyway, thanks a lot for joining me. Oh, my God, I almost forgot. The gasoline. Totally forgot about that. I just found this out today. And I was going out and I went looking around for gas. Right? And every place was empty. There was a couple I could see but half the pumps they were just about out anyway. The turnpike, we have the turnpike south of here, and there is a big service area in there. So I thought, I'm going to drive down there and see whether there's any gas down there. And sure enough, when I went in there, there's probably 5, 6, 7 cars because the highway was kind of empty. So I filled up my car, filled up a 5-gallon tank because I'm going to be running around a lot tonight and I don't want to be without gas. Because remember, if there's electrical power problems, doesn't matter how much gas they have, they can't get it out of the pumps for you. That becomes a problem. So I went down to the turnpike, the service area, and talked to them down there. And the woman at the desk told me actually by law, they have to keep their tanks full. So there you go. I can only regurgitate what she told me, but she said they have plenty of gas, and that's a place for you to go down and get gas if you feel you need it. So anyway, that's it. Thanks again for joining me. I'm glad I forgot. I remembered that. Anyway, thanks a lot. I'll talk to you later.